to showcase a passionate international educator working for the development of students' resilience, independence, self-confidence, and achievement. She is a primary school teacher. She builds strong relationships with her students with her observation and adaptation abilities, which also helps her understand their needs quickly and accurately. She is Mathilde Gouider representing New Zealand. Her session title is Resilience is All You and Your Students Need. Hello, Mathilde. How are you?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, and the
Hi,
stage is
you.
yours.
Thank you for this introduction. Hi to everyone. So here in New Zealand, it's 7:30 p.m. So good evening or good morning or good lunch wherever you are on the planet. I'm going to share my presentation. Up. So yes, the theme of my presentation is resilience. And why resilience is all you and your student need. There is this little quote on the side. I hope that everybody can see it because I have a little something blocked in front of it. Can everybody read the quote in green?
Yes, thank you.
Perfect. So the bamboo that blends is stronger than the oak that resists. This is a Japanese proverb, and it talks about what resilience means. Resilience does not mean that you are very strong and you are capable to tackle everything without ever moving. It means that you are capable to bend and adapt and come back like the bamboo. The definition of the Oxford Dictionary is the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties, toughness. For material, it's the ability of a substance or object to spring back into shape. It's elasticity. In other words, it's how to fall and stand up again, bend but never break. And when you think about it, this is how organisms survive, by adapting. This is how on this planet any organism ever survived. So to survive, this is all you need, the ability to adapt. A little presentation of myself and why I chose this theme. I am from France, as you might hear from my accent. I live in New Zealand, I teach in New Zealand, but I'm from France. I come from a multicultural family of people who have traveled to France and had to adapt, go through wars, etc. I have 4 different degrees in 4 different sectors. I studied 3 different subjects before I came into teaching. I worked in many different sectors before I came into teaching. I speak diverse languages, and I've lived in 3 different countries where I spoke 3 different languages. So resilience, after all this time, became my middle name. And when this empathy week was offered, I thought, what is it that I could teach that I know very well? Because I don't believe I am the best math teacher or the best writing teacher. But if there is something that I've learned, is how to adapt. And I think it's a very important skill that I wanted to share with you. So I have a question for you. Could you, 10 years ago, try to go back in time? Could you have imagined COVID? To me, the answer is no. I would have never imagined something that big happening. I'm a big traveler. I would have never imagined borders closing, not being able to see my family for 2 years. And when something that big happened, you realize that really there is nothing you could have done to prepare yourself to it. So in life, when something big happened, people have a tendency to try to think about all the things they could have done differently. I should have done this. I could have prepared myself that way. But really, the only thing that you need is to know that you can survive anything. And that's resilience. By learning how to develop resilience, you learn how to develop your self-confidence and your independence, stress and anxiety management, the way you adapt, your resourcefulness. And at the same time, they are interdependent. So if you develop self-confidence, you also develop resilience. If you develop resourcefulness, you also develop resilience. If you develop stress and anxiety management, you also develop resilience. This is why I think Gavin talked about it on a first day, that resilience takes time. It does take time because it's such a global skill that encompasses so many other things. So today, your takeaway, your teaching tips are going to be about how you can spend time in your classroom, building the self-confidence of your students by celebrating risk-taking, normalizing mistakes, finding the silver lining, the learning outcome out of each situation. And don't be a cunt. Some eyes are going to pop up, but you will remember it. Nor and helicopter. And I will explain what that means later. So first, how to celebrate risk-taking. Some of you might be familiar with the concept of the Übermensch, which means the Superman from Nietzsche, which basically was a concept he developed. And he was explaining that during the 20th century, we would see some individual developing superhuman skills, having their own values, pushing themselves and getting to the best of their abilities physically, mentally, and in all areas. And at the opposite was the last man. And that is one of the reasons why I'm so interested in resilience, because nowadays you can notice that this idea of the last man of Nietzsche is kind of popping up. So the last man is the opposite of the Superman. It's an archetypal passive nihilist. He's tired of life, takes no risk, and seeks only comfort and security. Therefore, the last man is unable to build and act upon a self-actualized ethos, which means if you never take risks, if you're always tired of everything, if you only seek comfort and security, you are never going to work towards the best version of yourself and develop your own sets of values. And that is not what we want for our children. But if you look, especially through technologies and also COVID, who has built enormous anxiety problems for certain students, there is this kind of closing effect, and I think has been talked a lot throughout those days, also around xenophobia, which is, oh, I want to be comfortable, I want to stay in my bubble, I don't want to take any risk because living is dangerous, it leads to this, so you should quit. So when we talk about risk-taking, in life, everything is risky. Getting out of your bed in the morning, you could twist your ankle, out of the door, crossing the road, you could get hit by a car. I mean, anything could happen anytime. And COVID has been really hard on children because on television, on newspaper, something was telling them you might die. So how do you build resilience? How do you manage your anxiety in a world like that? And what we need to repeat to them is that actually everything in life can be dangerous. So really, being brave doesn't mean that you aren't scared. Being brave means you are scared, really scared, badly scared, but you do the right thing anyway. And a way that I celebrate risk-taking and being brave in my classroom that you can use to, if that's something that you think could work, is what I call the courage medals. So here you have 3 of my students, and every Friday we celebrate students who were brave enough to try something new and learning by failing. So I ask all my students every Friday, what did you try this week that was really hard and you failed at? So they can't share something they succeeded at, they only share what they failed at. And it's almost a celebration of the worst failure. So, for example, I have one who told me, well, I tried skateboarding and I tried to do trick and I failed. Another one told me we were doing geometry and I did not understand how to do the area of that rectangle, and the answer was completely wrong and I did not understand the lesson at all. Another one told me, well, I was brave this week because I taught Japanese to some of my classmates, but apparently I didn't teach it very well because they don't remember anything. And when they share that, because you don't want to just talk about failures, what I ask them is, what are you going to do next? Because fail means first attempt in learning. You can't only try once. And that's also a part of resilience, is that I tried once, oh, it didn't work, I bend. Okay, I come back, I'm gonna try again. Didn't work, but I've learned from it. Oh, what did I learn? What did I learn from this experience? And they all come with a plan. By the time you, well, I'm going to try this. I'm going to work on that. This is my goal for next time. And by setting goals for themselves, by learning from their mistakes, from their failure, they learn very important skills that can be applied to absolutely anything in their lives. Another personal technique that works really well with children and also for yourself, it's the so what technique. So I've suffered from anxiety for a very long time, and I was never showing it because I come from France, which is a country where appearances are very important, and it's a very competitive society. So you have to look strong and confident, but deep down, I had a lot of anxiety. And a way I found to calm myself is when my mind was going into the worst case scenario, I would ask myself, so what? I'm going to give you an example. Let's say your student think that he's going to fail at a test. You ask him or her, so what? Well, if I fail, my parents are going to be disappointed. I'm going to be disappointed in myself. And if I fail at that grade, maybe I could fail the whole term or the whole semester. So what? You keep going like that into the rabbit hole. Well, if I failed the whole term or the whole semester, I could fail my year. And oh my goodness, everybody would be so upset. I would be losing so much time. Maybe I would have to repeat the year. And you ask them again, so what? Well, I would have lost 1 year of my life. I would have to do it again. I would be a bit annoyed. And when they get to the end, because you get to a point where you don't keep on going, the thing I tell them is no one died throughout that process. No one was hurt. You will still be alive at the end of it. So do you think that you need to stress for this? Or do you think that if that happens, if this worst case scenario happens, do you think that you will have the ability to find solutions? And it's a technique that works with everything. And I really encourage you to use it. Try not to avoid and tell your students to not avoid bad thoughts, because there is a tendency to want to jump straight away into positive thinking. Yes, let's change subject. No, let's go down the rabbit hole and see at the end of it, are we still there? Are we still alive? Did we survive? And that is something that is extremely comforting. In the words of Jose Mourinho, who is a very famous Portuguese football manager of many different clubs in Europe, if you are prepared for the worst, you're prepared. So instead of spending your time worrying for the worst and thinking that you're gonna fail and this is not gonna work, spend 5 minutes thinking about the worst case scenario, going down the rabbit hole. And once you've done that and you realize that at the end of it, you're gonna survive, you can just move on and you let go of that thought. And it's very important to do that. Another technique that can help you and your students is to ask them to remember a time when they overcame the same difficulty and came out stronger. For example, they are scared to share in front of the classroom because they're pretty shy. Well, try to find an example of a time where they did it and it went really well. Or they did it and they were scared, but they learned something out of it. It's really important to take the time to notice everything you have achieved in your life, because we have a tendency as humans to always focus on the bad sides and what we could do better. But it's also important to realize that you have achieved a lot. If you're still alive today, it means you have achieved something and you have learned things. So remembering that actually you are capable because you already did it. Moving on to another way that you can help the students building self-confidence and resilience, normalizing mistakes and finding the silver lining, the learning outcome out of each situation. So I really like this quote from Nelson Mandela: I never lose, I either win or learn. And that is really a mindset that could become the slogan of your classroom. You could have it on your wall, you could repeat it. If you really think about it, if you take the time right now to think about the worst thing that has ever happened to you, even if it's something as terrible as losing a loved one, you have learned something out of it. If you think about an experience that was really, really hard, you have actually learned something out of it, and you came out of it being stronger. And that's something that students needs to realize, because um, especially with social media and Instagram, we live in a society of visual where everything looks perfect and no one ever shows the bad days and the failures. And so they have this expectation of everything, that everything should be perfect. And if you actually tell them that this is not how you learn by making mistakes and learning from them, you learn by going through tough times. There is an image that I really love, um, and that is actually true. It's the image of the lobsters. So not a lot of people know it, but actually lobsters change their outer skins, their shells. And to be able to do that, when they grow, um, the muscles become bigger and bigger and bigger, and there's less and less space inside of the shell. And when they get to that point of anxiety and stress, because there is no more space, their body will release a specific hormone that is linked with stress that will make them produce a new one. So actually they need stress and they need to go through tough times to be able to evolve. And that's something that you can remind your students and remind yourself, is that you only learn when you go through tough times. Because when you're happy and everything is fine, you're just content and you are not working hard towards something. So that's something that can help them to see the silver lining and the learning outcome out of a situation. Um, Something that is also very important, because we live in a society that is extremely focused on performance and outcomes, is that your students and yourself, you should really enjoy the journey and not just the end game. And that's something that will teach you resilience too, because if you tried something and it didn't work and you worked hard for, I don't know, 1 year for a degree and you didn't get it, but every day when you woke up and you went to school or you went to do that project, you were having a blast and you were having a great time and you met amazing people, you will have enjoyed the journey. And at the end of the day, the destination, the end game, will not really matter anymore. And personally, I know that this is kind of a motto of life for me, because I'm in New Zealand as a visa worker and my visa could be stopped anytime. And of course, I have an end goal to gain residency, but maybe that's not going to happen. And I will never regret that I tried, because I'm actually enjoying my life every day. And that's the same thing that your students should be doing. And the way for you to work on that is to ask to get to know them, because you need to learn what your students are interested in to make them interested in learning, and make the learning enjoyable. And in that way, if they spent 1 week learning how to do multiplications using a game, an activity, a resource that they had so much fun with, but at the end of the week, they still didn't really understand, they will still have enjoyed the journey. So which means that it's okay. Maybe the students need more than 1 week. Maybe the students need 2, 3, 5, 10 weeks. Maybe the students need many years of repetition. But as long as the students enjoy the journey, the students will be okay to keep on learning. That's really something a lot of other conferences talked about, building the character of the students and happiness curriculum and all of that. It's really important that students enjoy coming to school and enjoy the concept of learning, because we are all lifelong learners. We're all learning something new every day. If you get to the point where there is so much frustration that the students is just not interested in learning anymore, this is where we fail them. We don't fail them when they get bad grades, when they don't understand a lesson. We fail them when they just don't want to learn anymore, because they are not interested in learning, because there is so much frustration attached to it. Now, normalizing mistakes. Well, there is one thing that I'm pretty sure a lot of you are already doing that works really well, is to make mistakes on purpose to check your students' understanding. So just go for it, right? 2 + 2 = 5 on the whiteboard and check, are they reacting? Are they saying something? Are they just too scared to even tell the teacher that what they wrote is wrong? That will help them doing two things. First thing, that will show them that even teachers make mistakes, because we don't want, as we said before, we want to be role models. And the way that we are a role model regarding resilience is by showing that we make mistakes and that we learn from it, and that we are not scared and we try anyway. As you can hear with my accent, and you can imagine, my year 5 students are having some very interesting spelling tests when I start reading the words, because my accent is a little bit different. But they always notice the fact that I try hard and that I'm giving it a go anyway, even if I know my accent is not perfect. And even if they correct me, we have this relationship where I make mistakes, they may make mistakes, and mistakes are normalized. Sometimes students are going to ask you a question that you have no idea. It may be something about a new pop star you know nothing about, or an animal you've never heard of. Well, when a student asks you a question and you don't have the answer, do not pretend that you know it, or do not avoid it. Just tell them, I don't know, because it's important to show your students that actually you don't know everything. That being an adult and being resilient does not mean to be perfect, to know everything, and never to be scared. It means also to be vulnerable and to say, well, I don't know. And ask the students if they're interested in finding out. And maybe that could be a good subject for inquiry for them, or for a report or a home learning or something like that. Always check your students' knowledge and use them as teacher. I teach in New Zealand, and the official language of New Zealand is Te Reo Maori, and we also teach in English, but it's very important to include a lot of Maori throughout the day. I've only been in New Zealand for 3 years, so as you can imagine, my level of Maori is very limited. But I have students in my classroom who are Maori, and I use them as teachers. And that shows that I am brave enough to ask for help. I am brave enough to accept the fact that I don't know everything. And sometimes I'm going to try to pronounce something and one of my Maori students is going to correct me. And I show them that I failed and I learned from my mistakes. And they celebrate the next time where I say it very well, the same way that I celebrate the next time they do something better than the last one. When you make a mistake, a real one, not the 2 + 2 = 5 that you did on purpose, when you make a real mistake on the board or you say something, you have to point it out. You have to stop and to tell your students, oh, I just made a mistake. Actually, what I just said is not correct, and correct yourself and explain to them how you realized it was a mistake. Oh, I just told you the wrong dates for the wrong event. Oh, I realized my memory got mixed up because in my country, we have a similar event on a different date. Explain them how that happens so they understand the process of metacognition behind it. And also it shows, again, that you're brave enough to point out your mistakes and do not cover them. It's very, very important. It makes you a human, and it makes you have to remember that students look at you as a role model, and so they are trying to be a little bit like you. And the vision of yourself, the image of yourself that you're showing must be achievable. If you're perfect all the time, that is not achievable. And every time you have a little funny stories about a mistake that you made, a mishap, please share it and tell them what you learned from it. And encourage them to do it too. That could be a very nice thing to do at the beginning and the end of the week, just for 5 minutes, a little circle of sharing, and actually laughing from it. Because it's important not to make fun of your students, of course, because it could break the relationship of trust. But when you add a little bit of humor to a mistake or to a tough time, it can sometimes help also releasing the pressure. But it has to be done the right way, when you have built enough relationship with the students that they know that you're actually trying to empathize with them and not making fun of them. Last but not least, I would like you to focus on the fact of how we use the word can and can't, and the concept of being a helicopter parent or a helicopter teacher. So I like this quote from Henry Ford, which says, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. I think throughout the last 2 centuries, we have had enough examples of how fast and how far the human mind is capable to go. If you think how our ancestors were living just in the 1700s, that's only 300 years ago, their life had more in common, with people from the antiquity than it has in common with our life right now. And if you would have said to someone in the 1700s that someday women would be president and someday we would have car that can go up to 250 kilometers per hour, and someday we will be able to fly in the air and cross the entire globe in 24 hours, no one would have believed you. And that's the same with your students. It's really important that you never ever say to your students that they can't do something. I'm talking, of course, in terms of skills and ability, not jumping from the bridge. Of course, they can't do that. And here is a very interesting example just to explain to you how this mindset of I can do it, I have the resources inside of me, I have the resilience, I have the skills, and how it can help you achieve anything. Thomas Edison, who discovered how to add electricity into a light bulb and have electric light, was rejected from primary school. The primary school said that he was underachieving, that he was an imbecile, as they would say before, or retarded, which are very, very bad words that no one would use anymore. And when his mom received the letter from the school, he came back from school and she gave him the letter. She didn't show it to him because he couldn't read. And she told him, Mrs. Edison, your son is a genius, and we do not have the resources to teach him. That is why he should go back home and be homeschooled by you. And so Thomas Edison spent his whole childhood and teenage years believing he was a genius. And because he believed he was a genius, he pushed himself towards very high goals. And only later on, after his discovery, after his innovations, he found the real letter, and he was shocked at discovering that actually the school had rejected him. And that is why what you say to students is extremely important. You have the right to tell them when their behavior isn't acceptable. You have the right to tell them when they are not working hard enough, when they are not focused. You can never tell a child that they can't do something. You can tell them that they are learning to do it. You can tell them that it will be a next step, but not that they can't do it, because really there is nothing that you cannot achieve when you have the motivation. This is the personally diamond that we use in France in management, because as I said before, I worked in many different sectors and I managed hotels for a long time. And when we recruit people, we look at 4 personality traits regarding the position. So the first one is I have the good personality for that position. For example, it's receptionist. Well, I am super friendly, very social. People love to talk with me. And I love to work in hotels. That's my personality. I am the good person. Great. Then you have I can. Well, I can do it because the company is giving me all the resources I need, because my body is working properly, because I'm in good health, because I can take a car and come to work. Great. Then you have I know. I have the qualification, I have the experience, and I know how to do that job. But something that people really undervalue, and that is actually the most important part, is I want. When you have the motivation to do something, even if you do not have the good personality, receptionist job, you're super shy, you don't speak any other language, and you've never done that before. You don't even know if you can do it because your car just broke down and you don't understand anything to the resources in the hotel. No, I don't know. I've never done that job. I have no qualification. I have no experience, but I really want to do it. And my motivation is so strong and so deep. Well, if you have I want, you can have the 3 others. They will come. However, you can have the best golden resume. If the person does not want to do it, nothing will happen. You can have an Einstein working at NASA. If the person is not interested in working with NASA or in the project, they will not do it. And that's the exact same thing that happened in the classroom. The only thing you should work on with your students is their motivation. And sometimes they are demotivated because they're receiving so much negative conversations at home, and they have a bad image of themselves that they don't want to try because they're scared. So if you work on this, the aspect that I talked about before, if you develop their self-confidence, if you tell them constantly that they can do anything, that you believe in them, that you know they are going to do something amazing. I even have a deal with my classroom. I told them that they will all be billionaires and they have to send me a little percentage of the salaries. That made laugh some of them. Some others took it a bit too seriously. But it's really, really important. And so when you have a child who's completely unengaged, you have to really look for the motivation and work on that with them. What is your motivation to come to school? Why do you want to learn? Why do you think I am teaching you that? How could that help you? Now, the helicopter. I imagine some of you have heard of this phenomena of helicopter parenting, but it also works for teachers. There are some helicopter teachers. Well, that's the concept of being around the child, always pushing away anything that could be dangerous, anything that could be a challenge, making an extra safe environment, protecting them from anything. And that is very bad for the development of the child. No child can build resilience and learn how to overcome difficulties by themselves if you are doing everything for them and if you are over preparing everything for them. So the best way not to do that is to not do something that they can do by themselves. You know they can do it. For example, we just had an art project and we want to display it on the walls and we need to add a nice border, and you just want basically to glue the art project into another paper of another color. And you think, oh, okay, they can glue, but it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be exactly like I want it to be. Don't do it. They have to do it. It's the end of the day. The classroom is messy. They have to clean it. You know they can do it. The other one that is a little bit more tricky is doing something for children that they can almost do for themselves. The good example is the scissors, for example. You might have some students who don't use their scissors very well, even though they're 12, they still don't know how to cut very well.
Any other child will say so.
So
for now.
You have this tendency to take it away from them because, come on, we don't have the time. We need to finish this activity in 5 minutes. It's got to be on the walls. It needs to look nice. Your parents are going to see it, and you're going to take it away from them and you're going to cut for them. When you do that, you take away a learning experience from the child. It doesn't matter if the shape is not cut perfectly. It doesn't matter if it doesn't look like you wanted it to look. Because if you take away an experience that a child could almost do for themselves, this means that they were learning and you cut the learning process. And if you do that, well, they will never achieve the learning intention. So it means maybe that you just need to give them more time. Maybe you need to give them more opportunities, give them more paper. And also it means that, well, it will not be perfect. So be it. And the last one is making parenting decisions, because I know some of you are parents too, or teaching decisions based on your own ego. What you think is important, what you think your child should look like, your student should look like, what kind of person they should develop into, because that is not what we're supposed to do as teachers. What we are supposed to do is to help our students become the best version of themselves, for whatever that means for them. If their dream is to become a baker or a shepherd or an astronaut, It doesn't matter. We need to help them towards that dream, doing what they love. And if your ego says that being a shepherd or a baker is not good enough, well, I come from a country where bakers can become extremely rich when they do very good croissant or macaron. So that's what I mean. We need to let children try and take risks. My personal story, when I was a little girl, I told my parents, I want to be a fashion designer. And my parents told me, great, it's really hard. The schools are really hard to enter. There is not a lot of places. You have to be the top #1 in primary school, middle school, and high school to enter. Great, I did it. I went into fashion design school, went there for 2 years, and I hated it. I realized it was absolutely not for me. But how could I ever realize that if I wouldn't have tried? And so I really thank my parents for letting me do that and going into art studies that most parents will say, well, what are you going to do with your art studies? And at the end of the day, I've learned so much from it, from the way designers think, that I end up moving into many, many different sectors, and I developed extreme resilience because I went to boarding school at 15 years old. I learned how to take care of a budget for myself, and it was really hard, and I was bullied at school. And so all this experience, sometimes we try so hard to save the children and protect them because we don't want them to go through the same pain that we went through. But as I explained before with the image of the lobster, you learned something from it. So don't be scared to let your students fail, try something, even if you think this is going the wrong way. It's very important you let them try. This quote from Maria Montessori, I think, resumes a lot of what I just said, that the greatest gift you can give to children are the roots of responsibility and the wings of independence, because this is what resilience is about. It's about being independent. We do not want to have a society of people who cannot live without their parents, because you are not going to be here forever, or a society of students who can't do anything without their teachers, because their teachers are not going to be there all the time. What we want is a society of critical thinkers who take the good decisions, who are not scared to try, and who are brave in situations that ask maybe to be the only person to do the good thing when everybody is doing otherwise. And I would like to finish on that note, because I know it's hard sometimes to let go, because we all have an image of what we want our children or our students to become. And it's a very beautiful poem from Khalil Gibran from the book The Prophet. If you haven't learned it, it's very beautiful poem. I'm just gonna move the bar because I can't read it. Oh, yes. Here we go. On children. Your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life's longing for itself. They come through you, but not from you. And though they are with you yet, they belong not to you. You may give them your love, but not your thoughts, for they have their own thoughts. You may house their bodies, but not their souls, for their souls dwell in the house of tomorrow, which you cannot visit, not even in your dreams. You may strive to be like them, but seek not to make them like you, for life goes not backward, nor tarries with yesterday. You are the bows from which your children, as living arrows, are sent forth. The archer sees the mark upon the path of the infinite, and he bends you with his might, that his arrows may go swift and far. Let your bending in the archer's hand be for gladness, for even as he loves the arrow that flies, so he loves also the bow that is stable. So your goal as a teacher, as a parent, is to be this stability, this positive reinforcement for them, and be there and push them and tell them that you believe in them. There is a very interesting study by Carol Dweck about the mindsets that you have towards success, that actually shows that the elements of success are receiving love, unconditional love, someone telling you that they believe in you and you can do it, and having an environment that is safe. That is all you need to achieve success. To go further, I really recommend you to check out the website of the Resilience Project. That gives a lot of, I'm not paid by anyone, but just sharing some good resources, a lot of good tips on how to develop resilience. Their idea is to do it also through gratitude, because when you're grateful, you can't think about negative things. Empathy, and how you learn from it. Mindfulness, because when you are in the moment, you can't be thinking about the problems or the worst case scenarios. And also emotional literacy. And Brené Brown also has done an amazing work on that with their Atlas of the Heart that I really recommend, because sometimes students use big words to talk about their issues, but actually they're not using the good ones, especially the word anxiety that we hear a lot, which actually sometimes could be just stress, excitement, overwhelming. It's not always anxiety, and it's important to have the literacy to actually express your emotions and understand them. The website also gives a lot of statistics and data about youth mental health and how it matters. And I really encourage you to work on that in your classroom, because you can't teach a student who is mentally not able to learn anything. So work on that first and then move towards the learning. An amazing documentary on Netflix that is actually Coaches Rule for Life. So it's coaches from different sports, football, soccer, basketball, etc., who give amazing tips on how they went and they overcame challenges and how they became such great coaches. Because when you think about it, a coach is a teacher and a teacher is a coach. I've put here for some quotes that are very, very inspiring. Some of my favorite ones are: growth takes place out of the comfort zone, as I explained before. What is delayed is not denied. That is something that children need to understand, that things take time. And sometimes you give up, but you have no idea how close you were to the goal. Maybe you gave up, but if you had given it just one more day, you would have achieved. So always believing in that. And when you fail and you fail and you fail, you're actually learning more and more and more. To tell your students also that their biggest weakness can become the greatest strength. Patrick Mouratoglou is actually the coach of Serena Williams. Used to be an extremely shy student. He didn't talk for 1 year when he first went to primary school, and he went to psychotherapy. He wasn't able to say a word for a year. And what he learned through that is how to be an amazing observer. And so when he coaches his players, he observes them and he knows what they need. So actually what you think is a weakness could become a strength. So you can empower your students in that way. Never be afraid to get fired, and mistakes are inevitable. If you never do anything because you're scared you're going to get fired, you're scared you're going to do mistakes, nothing's going to happen. You can't live with fear. You have to go through life. An example that I have is when in 2018, I decided to travel in many different countries. And before I left, I went to do a lot of vaccinations. And the doctor told me, well, here are the diseases that we can vaccinate you against. We're going to do it. And here are the list of diseases that we have no cure, no vaccination, no nothing against. So by leaving, you're taking the risk. You have to be aware that if you catch malaria, there might not be a lot we can do about it. And you do it anyway, because if you're always scared of mistakes and worst case scenario, you're just not going to do anything. Jill Ellis, who is an amazing coach of the feminine USA team, who won so many championships, explained how risk is an opportunity. And Doc Rivers, who is a very good basketball manager, how pressure is a privilege because it pushes you towards the best of yourself, and how champions keep moving forward. You've reached there, well, where is the next step? To summarize and finish, don't offer unnecessary help. Let your child or student fall and stand up by themselves, and just be with them throughout this process. Encourage them. Be an emotional support, not technical support. Develop a strong self-confidence, a self-belief that they can survive anything because your students or children are resourceful and ingenious. And you do that too through positive communications and affirmations. You have no idea what a child who comes from a family where there is really little time for them, a lot of instability. You have no idea how powerful it is for them to hear a teacher tell them that you believe they can do anything. And as I said before, normalize mistakes. Don't get alarmed for small things. Show when you do mistakes yourself, celebrate the learning growth from them, enjoy the process. And finally, please, everything I said, apply it to yourself too. Be kind to yourself, and really celebrate everything you've achieved so far and be the change that you want to see in the world.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you, Mathilde. Thank you so much for your amazing session of your storytelling skills. Wow, I mean, amazed us. I mean, you showed us the ways to develop and help our students, become resilient, become independent learners, capable to rise and move on and reflect in the face of challenge. And it was amazing. And we have people from all over the world praising you. I mean, it was unbelievable, phenomenal. Thank you so much, Mathilde. And I would like to share some comments for you. And we have people from all over the world. We have Book Charles. He says, I'm a teaching assistant at Makariri University Business School in Department of Economics. I am benefiting a lot from this discussion. Thank you so much, Charles. And we have Akhil Kumar, Mona Naj. Mona Naj is tuning in from United States of Emirates. I know that. And she says she's totally loving your presentation. And we have Akiri Khan, and we have T.R. Salini. Instilling students with positive mindset is very important. And Jyoti Gupta says, she questions, as an educator, how do we motivate parents not to be helicopter parents and let me grow?
Well, you could give them an example of a real life situation where the child would learn actually by doing things by themselves. As always, when you propose a change, it's mini steps. So start with something very small, like, for example, home learning. Tell them, well, when your child doesn't know how to do the home learning, give them ideas on how they could find other answers, research, dictionary, I don't know. And if they really can't do it, just don't do it for them. Let them come to school with unfinished home learning. And you start with mini steps like that. You can also ask parents to reflect on themselves. Ask them, didn't you ever fail at anything and learn from it? But build that relationship with the parents. I know not in all countries it's an easy thing to do. Parents are such a valuable part of schools, and they are not heard enough. So do the same with them. Tell them that you appreciate them and that you believe that they can do it too. They can stop being helicopter parents.
Thank you, Mathilde. Thank you so much. We have Madhu, comments are pouring in. It's not stopping. We have Madhumita Adya saying, useful presentation. Have heard many speakers, but your content hooked me to the talk. That's same here. Same for all of us.
Thank you so much.
And we have Anna Volokova from Ukraine. She's saying, I would love to invite Mathilde to share her knowledge with Ukrainian parents and educators.
Oh, yes, of course, with great pleasure. If you want to add me on LinkedIn, this is my name, and I'm pretty sure I'm the only Mathilde Gouider in the world because I have a French first name and a Arabic last name.
And we have Meeta Paul sharing wonderful session, very informative and useful. We have a Sia Rosinder saying amazingly informative. We have Baba Tunde Bolaji saying, wow, amazing. Thanks for the insight. Ladies and gentlemen, please let us know where you're tuning in from. And that would be amazing. We have Akiri Khan saying, well, Akiri is from Nigeria and she is loving your session, right? She loves your session. Thank you so much. And Anita Singh shares, Anita Singh is tuning in from United Arab Emirates. And she said, the biggest mistake we as educators make is we don't believe in our children. Yes, we so agree on that. point.
And it's
Yeah.
something that can help you with that, help myself, because every day I have some students who have been with me for 4 terms and are still not learning anything. And I'm wondering, oh my God, what am I doing wrong? But maybe I'm just not the good teacher for them. Maybe for that students, they need a different approach. And so what I tell myself is not that they can't do it. They will do it just with someone else in another context. Maybe at the moment their life is so torturous at home that they can't learn. So believe in them as human beings, and it's just a question of time sometimes.
Thank you, Mathilde. We have, well, Akiri says he's an inclusive educator here in Nigeria, and I definitely learned a lot. The session is relatable and achievable even in my free inclusive learning center. I particularly love how you acknowledge diversity with reference to home and background. Thank you. Thank you. We have Prabha saying, amazing journey. I'm able to connect so much. Gurmeet courses, we do tend to have high expectations, but we forget they are kids. I strongly agree with your opinion of taking small baby steps and nurture the relationship and learnings gradually. Thank you for a wonderful session. We have Susu says, thank you so much for insightful presentation. We'll consider to create a short self-paced online course. Wow, we have Siva Naripali sharing excellent presentation, dear ma'am. And Anna Volokova has found you. Well, good. Wow.
Great. No, it's something you can all work on goals with your students. For the day, a goal for the day, a goal for the week, a goal for the term, a goal for the year, and something that is, you might have all heard of SMART goals: specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. And work around that with them and celebrate each step. And when they fail, as I said before, just ask them what they learned.
Thank you. And Prabha says, Prabha is from India. Inspiring session. Thank you so much, Prabha. Thank you for sharing your location. Elsie is from India. And Ubuk Charles is from Kampala, Uganda. Much love from the Pearl of Africa, the home to Lake Victoria and Mountain Rwenzori. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrong. Rwenzori. Thank you so much, Charles. And we have Anita's true. And Akhil Kumar is from California. Thank you, Akhil. And he is loving your session. And teacher Nissi Nasipa would like to unmute herself. Sure, Nissi, the stage is yours.
Thank you so much. How do I pronounce your name? One more time, please.
Oh, yes, of course. So it ends like in the word field. It's Mathilde.
Mathilde. Okay, Mathilde. So thank you so much for being vulnerable and also talking about your anxiety. And I guess, yeah, we grew up at a time when, the curriculum was forced upon us. We were asked to live a certain way, right? And now, I can relate so much. You might be the empowering woman on the outside, but you might, have a lot of anxieties to deal with. And it was so assuring. And in fact, I think since it's going to be on the platform, I'm going to show my teachers about this.
Oh,
yeah. Yes.
Really
And I come from India and I've traveled in Southeast Asia, and there's quite a lot of racism. And with my hypersensitive nature that I am, I did go through a lot of emotional ups and downs, but that was the actual reason why I was able to do the things that I've done until now. So, yeah, so it's like, you need the darkness for the light, something like that, right? So, yeah, thank you so much, Mathilde.
Thank you. I wish you all the best. You're doing great.
Thank you, Nissi. Thank you so much. We have TR Salini saying hello from Singapore. Thank you for a wonderful sharing. And thank you, Salini, for tuning in from all the way from Singapore. Thank you so much, guys. If you have any more questions for Mathilde, please do unmute yourself. Please do unmute yourself and the stage is yours. We do have 10 minutes left. 10 minutes left for a Q&A session. So the floor is yours, please.
Hello, Matilda. This is Alexander from Ghana. I just want to say that you've really done a very good job, and I doff my hat to you. Your presentation, your strength was very clear and concise and very well presented. A lot of time and effort gone into planning and researching resources. I really like how you have tried to learn something new and impart that knowledge on us as well, and not just a continuation of current subjects. But the presentation was clear and precise. Your topic was extremely engaging, and your use of planning was very clever. Good amount of information and presentation was presented well, seemed to know what you need to do and when nicely planned. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Wow, thank you, Alexander,
kind.
for sharing this wonderful, wonderful testimonial. Mathilde, please, if you're saying something, I'm sorry I've interrupted you.
No. Just saying it's a very kind feedback. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And if there is anything that can change, my accent is going to be a bit hard. I'm sorry. But if there is any other feedback, please. I always love to receive feedback.
Hi, Mathilde. So this is Ahere from Nigeria again. I think I've been commenting. First off, I want to thank Educational Influence. Anisha, thank you for bringing us this amazing information, even in the comfort of our homes and irrespective of our time zones. You're an inclusive association. Thank you. Now, Mathilde, over to you. I'm going to start with the ending. You talked about your accent. I know that I've been following the transcription and it possibly relates with what you're saying. So there's nothing wrong with your, accent. We can pick it. I think first off, we need to acknowledge that we're from diverse backgrounds. So it is expected and we cannot be the same. So as a DIB strategist, I want to thank you and an inclusive educator for ensuring that you literally reiterated the essence of diversity. I loved particularly where you continually stated that nothing, I'm paraphrasing now, is cast in stone. So it is okay for the children to try. It is not okay to expect so much from them because first off, they're children. I also loved where you talked about the I can, I am, I will, and I want, stating, objectives of who you are, what you can do, irrespective of who you are and what you can do, what you want. So what you want might not relate with who you are and what you can do, but because you're passionate, you can be committed, and that means you're a learner, even as a parent and as a child. I like how you ensure that what is obtainable to teachers is also obtainable to parents and is also obtainable to children because we're human beings after all, and we all, have needs at one time or the other. I could keep going on and on and on and on and on and on and on, but your presentations hit right on the spot of everything. I like the mindfulness because even as teachers, we can burn out because there's so much expectations as teachers. Now I work in the underserved space. I run free schools and I work with children from extremely poor backgrounds. And so I understand when you talked about what the children might be dealing with from home, that might also manifest in the classroom. So it is very important that as teachers, we acknowledge that for each child. Sometimes they might be tasking, which might lead to burnout. I just came out from one. What helped me was the mindfulness session that I attended a few months ago with one of my coaches. So it is not asking for so much when teachers decide to go through those sessions. So thank you so much, Mathilde. Thank you, Anisha. Thank you, Educational Influence. I would do this over and over again, and I'm proud to be one of the Educational Influence ambassadors here in Nigeria. Have a lovely day. Love from Nigeria.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And well, teacher Nessie Pro says beautiful hair, by the way. And the accent is perfect. I agree with her on
Yes,
that.
everybody, let's embrace our diversity and let's not try all to look like everybody else. Just look like yourselves.
Thank you. Thank
Wear
you.
your natural hair, girls.
Thank you so much. And Prabha, yes, we are going to share her presentation and recording in our platform educationinfluence.com, and we will be emailing you once we set all the details. We will be sending you all the details with everything. Thank you very much. And Mathilde, before you go, we have 5 minutes left, and I do have one question for you, and it's going to be really quick. So in this ever-changing digital world, it's digital, and It's not about chalkboards and whiteboards anymore. It's about laptops, iPads, all kinds of what do we call it, Krita. There are all kinds of digital things that you cannot really cope with. So how can one manage this sustainable and resilient knowledge, skills, and competencies in the present context, when knowledge production, distribution, and consumption have been inseparably embedded with digital technology, which are aggressively ever-changing and modifying, making the existing skills and knowledge invalid?
So this is where resilience becomes so vital, because things are going so fast. That's why sometimes when I'm at school and I see some of my colleagues who are so focused on academical teaching, I mean, of course, we're teaching something, but I tell them maybe what we're teaching today is going to be obsolete in 2 years. So what you want is your children to love learning, and that's it. If they love learning, and since the process of learning includes mistakes, and trying something new and being a bit embarrassed and then realizing that what you learn is now obsolete, if they love that process and you make it clear to them that this is going to happen, you will fail. You will learn something that is going to become obsolete, and you will have to learn again. You might have to change your work 10 times in your life. If they expect it, then you're taking a lot of stress away, because the day it happened, well, what's supposed to happen? But the way I see things, I think we're living in a time of opportunity, and this is how you should show it to the kids. Don't tell them the world is a scary place where things change all the time and we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. No one ever knew what was going to happen tomorrow. So tell them it's so amazing that today knowledge is available at your fingertips. Our great-grandparents maybe weren't even going to school, or were through war, or just had books that they had to go to the library 50 kilometers away to get the knowledge. So tell them, if you're resilient, if you know you're resourceful and you can adapt to anything, whatever, anything can come, bring it on.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mathilde. Thank you so much for your amazing presentation, and thank you for participating in the Education Influence Global Conference.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.